I have got 5 tips for you today to make your life easier during warm weather with your baby, toddler, or child of any age. The first one is to make sure that you choose the right sun cream for your child. Remember that under 6 months old, sun cream is not actually recommended. However, I do think that there's a caveat to this, because if you know that there is not going to be shade where you are, then you're going to have to use sun cream or your baby's skin will burn. So the best option, of course, is to keep your baby under 6 months in the shade at all times. But if you can't, especially if they're in a carrier where their arms and legs are going to be exposed and they haven't got long sleeves or trouser legs on, then you are going to have to use a sun cream. There are a few different brands that advertise that they are for newborn plus, so do shop around, but make sure that you look for one that has both UVA and UVB protection. The UVB protection is shown to prevent skin aging, but also is a really important one to prevent against future skin cancers. Staying in the shade between 11 and 3 is something that we hear a lot, but did you know that it's now recommended to not use factor 50 or even 50 plus with your little ones, but actually to use factor 30? I know. There's a few reasons why, bear with me. So the first one obviously is that if you're using factor 30, you have to apply it more often. Sometimes I think that there's a school of thought that if you put on the factor 50 or even those P50 ones that where you just put it on once a day and it lasts all day, that you kind of forget about it. Whereas if you're doing factor 30, you're more likely to be topping it up regularly. But also factor 50, if you've ever used it, is very, very thick and it often doesn't allow little one's skin to breathe. We know babies cannot sweat like we can as adults, and they don't regulate their temperature well. So babies and toddlers can often get rashes from the factor 50 sun cream. And so using a factor 30 can actually be more comfortable for them, and it's proven to help their skin breathe and is just healthier all around for skin. I'll link an article below if you don't believe me and you want to read more. The next tip is to use a Canopy Extender for your pushchair or car seat, unless they have a long one of their own, in which case use that. But to never ever use a muslin or some kind of other branded sunshade, snooze shade, anything like that, even if it's advertised to be sun safe, to cover your baby's pram or pushchair. That is because they don't allow airflow through, even if they're a breathable material, even if you undo that little zip at the front to like open it up a tiny bit like it's on a snooze shade, they're just not safe for babies in the heat. The temperature rises astronomically, really, really rapidly when you cover your baby's pushchair or car seat with them. So please, 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 please don't do that. But you can use a Canopy Extender, and we've had one actually this year for the first time, which has been really helpful in just making that hood a little bit longer, still allows the airflow underneath. You can also use an umbrella, of course. They can be a little bit faffy to deal with. You can also get these like circular sunshades that I'll put one on the screen here so you can see what I mean. We've had one before. I wouldn't recommend them. It was really awkward to use and provided very, very little shade for what we had it for. Make sure that you keep your curtains and blinds closed from very first thing in the morning, as soon as the sun moves around to shine on your house, or in fact before it does, all day long, and then only open them up once the sun has gone and it has cooled down significantly. I worked for many years as an au pair in both France and Italy, and this is a trick that is used on the continent all the time. A lot of the houses don't have air conditioning like we don't here, and they're just really used to it. Of course, a lot of the houses in France also have those fantastic shutters, which is what they're for. But it just means that the house stays as cool as possible. Of course, it won't be cool, but it will be cooler than if you have the windows open, because you're just letting all the warm air in. Once the sun has moved around, then you can throw open the windows, open the blinds and curtains, and let that cooler evening and night air through, and leave the window open all night if you want to. Just make sure that if you have a small baby, they're not in the line of direct air coming in through the window, because they can't regulate their temperature, so we don't want them to get too cold, especially if they're dressed for a summer night. When we're hot and we need to cool down or we need to hydrate, then ice lollies are the way to go, both for us and for our babies and children. If you have a pre-6-month-old baby and they're not yet weaned onto solids, then you can do water ice lollies. So just plain water, cool boiled again, in an ice lolly. You can do the homemade style. It will just be really cooling for your baby to lick on, to suck on, and they will enjoy playing with it. You can do breast milk lollies if you are breastfeeding or if you have access to some breast milk somewhere for your baby. If they are 6 months plus, you can do your own homemade lollies with natural fruit juices. I quite like whizzing up things like watermelon to put into a lolly. Or you could just do slices of watermelon and slices of cucumber because they are cooling and also very hydrating. So if you have a little one that doesn't like to drink water, then using ice lollies or water dense foods like this are a great alternative, and it will stop you worrying so much about them becoming dehydrated. Let's talk milk and water. Sometimes this gets a little bit confusing, so let's just review. If you are breastfeeding your baby, then they do not need to have any water at all extra to the breast milk. So you will just need to feed them more. If you have a formula fed baby, formula is the priority. So you shouldn't be giving them water over milk, but you can give them both extra formula feeds and also top ups of small amounts of water. This needs to be cooled boiled water. So you boil the water first, you obviously leave it to cool so it doesn't burn your baby, and then you feed it to them. That's because it sterilizes it. Once they are 6 months plus, you don't need to do this step, and you can give them water straight from the tap if you're in a country where it's safe to do so. If you want to give your baby bottled water, then stop and don't until you've read the label, because a lot of bottled water contains really high levels of lots of chemicals, including sodium, that's salt content. So make sure you read the label carefully. I will link something down below so you can see exactly the amounts that are recommended, but it's always advisable to do the cooled boiled water if you can over using any bottled water for your babies. If you are due to go on holiday with your little one soon, then this video is for you. It's my top tips for traveling with little ones. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.